And then so the student will be like, oh, well, how do I stop desiring? So which throws you into this catch-22 where you're like, now you're desiring not to desire. So the whole idea is to eventually kind of like stop being a fanatic and then just be okay with the way things are.
Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Dream Podcast, episode 16. This is Lee, and we have
Casey Lucid. How's it going, everyone?
So today, for episode 16, we're going to be doing a little something different. We're going to have like a more open conversation, discussion about things we think about that's, part of the lucid dreaming community that we'd like to talk about. The sides of lucid dreaming that are a little more out there. People have these strange ideas about lucid dreaming.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting topic to get into. I think a lot of our listeners will understand what we're talking about when we get into it a little more. But basically, there's definitely and you all know exactly what I'm talking about when we're talking about like people that talk about crystals and energy strings and other dimensions and astral projection. Now, all of that is fine. It's just that we just kind of wanted to go over some of that and maybe kind of give a different point of view, basically, just to go over some things. And we should always try to respect each other's beliefs, and it's always good to consider a different point of view. But this is basically just our take on some of these things.
That was a very serious way of saying that.
I'm trying to be diplomatic.
So let's just go over real quick. So Casey, what is your general opinion of just dreaming in general? Let's go over why we think lucid dreaming is great, dream stories are great, real quick.
For one, if you want to be more if you don't want to take it as seriously, dreams just at the superficial level are probably the highest form of entertainment that one can experience, especially lucid dreaming, because you can literally have all of the sensations, all of your senses are stimulated, but in a lucid dream you choose what happens, which it's almost like directing a movie that you are simultaneously in as it happens. So it's great and it's really fun. And then there's the deeper aspect of, you get to understand your inner psyche better. You can have you can experiment with kind of your consciousness and your focus, and you can meditate. There's so many different aspects, but that's basically my view on it. If I'm to be really honest, I would say that I don't know. And I think that's the most honest anybody can be in regards to dreams, because even if you talk to a neuroscientist, they can give you some really well-backed theories, but the fact of the matter is that we don't actually know.
Know about what?
Why we dream, or why dreams happen. There's a lot of theories, and I've looked into it because it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to consider, but you can look at the different brain waves, and you can also see how dreams can occur at any brainwave.
Oh.
Your consciousness kind of shifts throughout the different brainwaves, and it's there's a lot that goes into it, and people are constantly testing because by nature humans are curious. If somebody's telling you this is what dreams are, I would be wary of that person. I wouldn't necessarily trust them.
Yeah. So it's like asking a blind person, what do you visualize in your mind, right? That's how do you explain that? They just do, I guess, right? They have certain modes that they develop to understand the world. I think they have a certain visualization. They certainly can't explain color or anything, right? But they perceive other things, right? Okay.
Right.
That's a good explanation. Yeah.
But what if do you have an example of maybe something that you have to give an idea to the listeners of what we're talking about? Kind of maybe something that may be a little pseudoscientific or a little out there.
So, when looking through the lucid dreaming forums, lucid dreaming Reddits, you come across like these certain comments, certain things people say like, oh man, lucid dreaming is another dimension. How did you guys do it? I want to go to this dimension in my lucid dreams. In my lucid dreams, I am the far seer of the ocean Pluto or something. I don't know. Now, I'm not making fun of it, but these are kind of realistic examples. Part of this kind of lucid dreaming community that kind of believes in this kind of inner energy, dimensional rifts sort of idea. Maybe psychic kinesis has something to do with them. How do you make sense of that, Casey?
So I think it's kind of like it's all fine and good until it interferes with your life in a negative way. And this is what I mean. And I'm pretty sure we all know one or two people that are really into just kind of like ideas that are out there. Maybe they think like certain potions or crystals or herbs of some kind can help heal them. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for natural solutions if they work. But if you have, like, let's say you have some kind of a ailment and you're thinking, oh, I know, I'm just going to astral project out of my body in a lucid dream and heal my spiritual side, so then it can cure my diabetes or something like that. I don't know. Like, this, I'm honest to God, I've read things like that on the internet. So the internet's a wild place. But the reason why we bring this up is because there's a difference between entertainment and reality. But basically that's what I mean. You know, like when you focus too much on like these theories, then you can lose sight of reality. I mean, like, do you know anybody like that, or have you ever experienced that?
I think we talked a little bit about this before, and you mentioned like this example of like conventions. When you go to like an anime convention, you find like kids that are just like way too far gone on the animation side, where they kind of lose touch with like social, their social skills aren't developed, and they're just like, oh man, I don't want to be as social with those guys. Kind of do. Yeah,
that's a good example. That's a good metaphor.
But we see this a lot in communities, and I'm like, why do people like tend to like go there? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, it may be. So, I don't know. Sometimes, it just makes you feel special. Like, oh, this thing is special about me. I can go, and don't get me wrong, lucid dreaming can definitely be a very, I don't know, fascinating experience. And it feels so unique. So I can see how people can feel that way. It's important to keep reality, like this reality, the waking reality, and that reality separate. And it's healthy to realize the difference. Like, I don't know, do you have any friends, for example, not to get too political, that in this past, we had an election not too long ago, but people can get lost in theories and politics and lose sight of what's going on in their daily life, which is not a good thing.
So you're saying like they kind of get fanatic about feeling special, I guess?
Yeah.
The feeling of possibly like being something better and greater, which is kind of like the idea in politics. Like they always think they're whatever candidate is like for the better, I guess, right? And so that they feel that kind of way, like, hey, I can lucid. I'm better than the populace or better than people. I can do this, and they start flexing on people.
Yeah, I mean that's one way to look at it. I mean, people we're pretty egomaniacal creatures, so that can, it's like, oh, I'm better, or I'm different, I'm unique, and that's kind of missing the point. The point isn't like to ascend to a higher level through lucid dreaming, or to, I don't know, like I'm reminded of this koan, that one day there were these students, and they went to the Buddha and they asked him, is there life after death? And so the Buddha said yes, and the students were happy, and they went back and to the village, and everybody celebrated, and then everybody was really happy for a while. Everybody was really happy, and then eventually they started, getting a little doubtful. So somebody else went to the Buddha, and they asked him, "Hey Buddha, is there really life after death?" And he said no, and so everybody was like in despair and kind of like sad, and the Buddha was basically in a very kind of like teacher sort of way, he was trying to prove to them, it doesn't matter, okay? It doesn't matter whether it's this or that. We're all in the same boat. We're all basically headed in the same direction, regardless of what your belief is. Don't let external factors outside of yourself affect you so much. Like, I know, like, does that make sense? I mean, I'm not trying to get too deep over here, but basically it's just that dreams and lucid dreaming are an incredible experience, but don't make it so, like, don't get fanatic about it, you know? Like, and I dream and lucid dream regularly, and I write down and sketch a lot of things, but do you have any dreams that you ever thought that they were like, oh, this is a meaning, this is like a higher call or something like that?
You know what? I really try to follow the people that like do want to ascend in lucid dreaming. Like, I kind of want to know what they think, right? Like, kind of like, where did they get that from? And I like what you said about them feeling special, of course. I think that's part of it. But I think it just really kind of brings you back to like the old world, and where like certain dreams are more significant in, you know, this place, whether you're either a prophet or a crazy person.
Okay.
Wait, has that changed? Well, has that really changed though?
I don't know. I mean, you also have to remember that some people are more eloquent than others, which also plays a role, but
that's true. I can't be going up to everyone like, hey man, I just dreamt, I controlled my dreams, I fought Godzilla. What did you do last night? and that would certainly sound weird to go up, right?
And, you know, I think I'm a little kind of like biased towards that too, because I draw daily, like at least once a day. I try to make a drawing of a dream that somebody had sent me. And I tell people, like, if it's a boring dream, I don't want to hear it. You know, it's like, I want to draw interesting things, which is kind of like, you know, that can be bad on my part, because like dreams, even boring dreams, can have significance, but I just want something that's visually interesting. So usually I'll tell people, like, if you have like an interesting experience, let me know. But if it's like I just went home, ate pizza, and talked to my dad, like, I don't want to draw that. It's nothing against that. That can be a very meaningful dream. Like, the conversation could have been incredible, you know, and the feelings you had may have been amazing during the dream, but that's not really like an interesting subject matter to draw. So I'm biased towards those, you know?
Yeah.
And
okay. That makes sense.
I'm aware of that. I try to be.
And, you know, I think for our podcast, we just like to share interesting dreams, because interesting dreams happens regardless or not they have a good meaning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, it could be just a completely random dream. Like, it has no meaning, just random events. But what you were talking about, the people with the ego, it reminded me of how Alan Watts has a great lecture on this. And I'll probably, throughout the rest of this episode, I'll probably keep referring to Eastern philosophy, just because I often read Eastern philosophy. And so Alan Watts has an interesting talk about how, you know, like, let's say you come to the self-realization that you have an ego, you know, that you have, I don't know, that you think you're better than others or whatever the case may be. And then, but you're also on the spiritual path. So then you go to a teacher and you tell them, okay, well, how, like, why, what causes the ego? What causes all of this? And it's like, eventually you end up learning it's your desire, you know, it's like your desire and like your fears and wants and all of this, that's kind of driven by desire. Like, your suffering is basically driven by desire. And then so the student will be like, oh, well, how do I stop desiring? So which throws you into this catch-22 where you're like, now you're desiring not to desire. So the whole idea is to eventually kind of like stop being a fanatic and then just be okay with the way things are. So it's like, that's why I don't think it's healthy to be a fanatic about dreams and lucid dreaming. Just have fun with it, you know? Like, do you play any sports, Lee? Do you play any sports? Or do you play any instruments? How about that? Do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I play some guitar.
Nice. Okay. Well, tell me if I'm right when I say you always play your best when you're having fun with it. Am I right or wrong?
If you're having fun, others are having fun, right?
Yes, exactly. And I'll give you a perfect example. Like before, I've had jam sessions with friends before where we played horrible, like we were just awful, and we knew it. But we had fun. So it's like, if your goal is to be, basically, I was just getting at that. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be aiming to be great to have fun and enjoy it. So sometimes the point of just enjoying the time, that's the point of it.
Yeah. So I think Buddha just said like the source of all suffering is attachment, right?
Okay.
So these people get too attached. They think that they can ascend to a higher plane and their higher being, which just sounds really cool. But I think we got to focus on like what's happening in reality too.
And like I'm a little bit of a nerd myself, and you can like one of the first things that I started doing when I started lucid dreaming was just going Super Saiyan. Okay, so that in itself feels like an awesome ascension. You know, like you just became superhuman, and you're doing all these things, and it's fun.
But now, what if you go around real life and be like, man, just wait, everyone. I can unlock it in real life. Just you wait. These powers are real. I know they are.
Well, I mean, like you would look at me like, you know, like what's wrong with this kid? And that would be, I would say that that's the correct response, because I mean, like I would tell somebody you can do this in the lucid dream because because I know you can do it in the lucid dream and it's really fun, but it's important to keep those two separate. I really like reality is separate from dreaming. Like it can affect you, you know, it can have lasting effects, because like I've known people that have had like they've dreamt like nightmares to the point where they don't want to go back to sleep. Like I've had actually people contact me through Reddit and on the Dream Discord too. Like I've talked to people where it's like I'm afraid to go to sleep. So dreams can have a lasting impact. But a lot of that I think is more about self-control and self-awareness. That's something that I don't think is talked about enough in the lucid dream or the dream forms.
Yeah. And I think part of our podcast, we kind of push this idea of like, hey, remember to like take your dreams into consideration of how you're feeling. And I think that kind of goes past in daily life, where I don't think most people really are aware of what they're feeling. Yeah. Unless Agreed. It, happens, right? Most people will feel it physically. They get angry, they get, pits in their stomach, anxiety or something like that. But when something, cognitive happens, that kind of help, that's harder to see, right? So why did I make this instantaneous decision to reject? In that moment, I was flustered. I didn't know what to do. So the easy way out was like to say no, or, just a generic example.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why, and we've talked about it before, like dream journaling, or just journaling, even your daily life. It's really powerful to look back at your thoughts and kind of re-examine them. But I think that brings me to the next point, which is, like a lot of times if you're relying on like, external things like, oh, I need to have this light or in my dream setting, or this, incense burning, or these rocks surrounding my bed, or like literally things that I've seen people talk about. That's fine. That's fine to if that's part of your beliefs or your religion and all that. But more important than that, I would argue, is that to be self-aware. So it's like, don't give power to something external, especially in something that's very internal, like dreams. It's like practice like meditation, for example. Like if you're somebody that's into all of that, then I would highly suggest you try meditation. But like meditation, for example, like the benefits of meditation, and like you meditate also. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so let's let's understand that, right? I think so. Why? So we compare meditation and dreaming. So let's think about why, right? So what happens when you meditate, right?
Well, I guess you get into alternate state of mind.
Yeah. So there's certain things that kind of open up when you meditate. But essentially, if you get to like what people think meditation is, like a no state of mind, right? So what is left when there's a no state of mind? And this is to say, like, are you your mind?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, so
just kind of like you? How I am my body, you know, like I am my mind and my body, like they're part of me.
Okay. So what if I ask you like, hey, are you the contents of your mind? Is your hand to you then?
Well, that's kind of like saying, I see what you're saying, but it's like, it's not like one doesn't equal the other, you know, like that's kind of like saying, at what point is a catapult? You know, like if you have like a wheel and a bar and all of those things, but they're not put together, is it still a catapult?
Is it?
Well, I would say that it's not, because the sum is different than the parts that it's made of. You know, like the sum total, like the total of the thing, the totality of the object is different than its parts and how it functions.
So what if I said you're not your mind, but you are you?
Well, I think that at that point we start to reach the limitations of language, because language is a very limited tool.
Okay, so your mind has these thoughts. So your minds are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, because you can experience feelings that are...
Sure.
That you're not able to express in language.
So I'll say that, you know, learning meditation and stuff, the way these kind of yogis view your mind and body, they're just extensions of you. Just like your hands or limbs, the mind, the brain is also a limb. Think about, right? Okay. And when you have thoughts, those are thoughts. They're not real, right?
Okay. Well, I would say that a thought is almost like a seed which can grow into a tree, because it's like everything begins with a thought, you know, like you have to think of something and then.
But then I can think, hey, Casey, I think Casey is the worst guy in the world. Why am I doing this to them? Is that real?
Well, it depends on what made you think that way. I mean, like you should definitely pay attention to your thoughts so you can be mindful of how you act upon it.
I think I might be getting to a stretch, but I think it's important about you feel what that sensation feels about what I'm feeling when I say that, right? When you're meditating, you know, these thoughts and your body physically, you feel whatever you can feel. When you're meditating, you're basically, when you get to like a, you know, kind of a more peaceful place with yourself, that's exactly that. So you are sitting with yourself, not with your mind, not with your body, but with yourself. And so what's going on when you dream, right?
Okay. You experience, I don't know, you experience your thoughts?
Well, you experience yourself in your dreams as well. And
we
can see that.
Yeah. I have thought about that before, too. We can see that
from certain dreams, yeah.
Because it's like you're eating, like if you're eating
Can you see
what
I'm getting at? Like, it's like a little parallelism. I don't know if you guys get it.
So you mean, okay, if you're meditating, you're eventually getting closer to your true self, as opposed to distracted by everything that's been imprinted on you by your environment. And same with dreams?
I think that's a very scientific way to explain it. I don't think it needs to be that sciencey, but when you think about it, like, it's like if your thoughts are you, then people with anxiety are just their anxiety, right?
Okay.
Right?
I see.
And that can get out of control. And when you get to kind of, you're standing beside yourself. So it's the feeling of lucid dreaming, as you've explained it to me, where you're just experiencing. That makes sense?
Yeah. And actually what you said earlier, if you take away like your body and your mind and your thoughts, what's left? So Tenzin Rinpoche talks about that in the Tibetan Yoga of Dream and Sleep. It's an excellent book. Everybody should read it. But basically, he explains that there's a regular dream, then there's a lucid dream, and then there's a lucid dream where you're like completely in control and, you know, you can talk to your subconscious and all of this. And then there's a dream, which is, I guess they consider higher than all of these dreams, which is called a wisdom dream. And the wisdom dream is basically when there's nothing happening. There's no, you're not seeing, you're not tasting, you're not smelling, you're not hearing. There's nothing. There's nothing for you to actually interact with, but you're still aware. So that's like a pure awareness kind of dream. And he calls those wisdom dreams, and they're considered wisdom dreams because you can consider, like, you get to the root, I guess, of your consciousness, where it's like you are aware of your own awareness without any external stimuli or anything. So I think that would be the closest.
I think that's a great example, actually. So, you know, when you experience something, let's say like a heated conversation or something instantly enrages you, right? Mm-hmm. You don't see anything in that moment. You just feel that anger, that, you know, that fire in you, right?
Oh, right? Yeah, you're right.
Right? So you don't feel anything. That's a
good way to think about it.
Yeah. So when you meditate, it allows you to step away from yourself because your mind needs it. And from there, you can start to see everything, right?
Yes.
Well, you can start to begin the process of seeing everything. I'm not saying that, you know, but if say when you get mad at stupid crap instantly, like, and that inhibits your life, you want to, you know, take control. You can't take control of what you can't see, right? Meditation does that. And what you explained from Tenzin, when he said, like, being aware and seeing, being aware of certain things, it's the same as meditation. And I think that correlates with dreaming a lot too. In dreams, you're able to see it more and kind of weirdly, abstractly understand it. But when you meditate, you step beside yourself to see what the contents of your body is and what it's feeling, what it's not feeling. And then from there on, you can be aware, and then kind of like, you notice that feeling arise, you can look at it and then step away and go the other path that's better for you, right?
Yeah. And so, but everything that you're saying, I think this is important, especially for the topic we're discussing, is if you're relying on something external, such as like a crystal or like some kind of an artifact or something, to help you think better or to help you have more control over your thoughts, I think that's missing the point completely. Because like meditation helps you tame your thoughts and helps you kind of like gain better control. It's almost like, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like aligning yourself. It helps you get more balance. I think that's the best way I can explain it. I
don't know necessarily if you can tame, but it's still a part of who you are, right?
Sure.
So it's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more about balance. So
agreed.
My thing is that, you know, a lot of people, when they talk about like these, I don't want to call them pseudoscientific things, but maybe just kind of like out there ideas. And don't get me wrong, I like reading about things like that, but it's important to separate fact from fiction, and it's important to understand what's entertainment. Just like conspiracy theories. I think conspiracy theories are fun to read, but don't mistake them for reality, because that can really, I mean, I don't know, it's not good. It can have a negative impact. Is that fair enough, like, to say, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be harsh on people that believe that kind of stuff. And I actually like talking to people like that. Just because it's interesting to hear, like, variety is the spice of life, after all.
Yeah, I'd like to know where they kind of, I want to follow their understanding.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how people think.
But, you know, there's that line of off-putting and then the realistic kind of idea. It's like, are you sure are you sure? Like, are you sure that that's what you believe in? You know, like, are you sure that's real, rather?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the interesting part. So, like, if somebody was to tell me, hey, did you know that these tribesmen believe in this, and this is why, I would be like, oh, that's really interesting. That's part of their culture. Or maybe their religion. I wonder how they came to think that. I wonder if there's a story or folklore or something. And it's like there's always a reason why people think a certain way. But if you just told me that you read like this on the internet, or like or in the book, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the right way, I'm like, I don't know. Like that's why, like you said, it's good to look at different things and kind of like try to balance yourself.
Yeah. So would you call like these type of kind of like more on the deep end, like out of balance in some way?
Yes, and here's why. It's just like, sorry, I don't mean to bring up politics again, but it's like if regardless of how you lean on the political spectrum, if you go too far out, you become an extremist. And I'm pretty sure everybody can agree that that's not a good thing. So it's okay to have differing views on things. But if you're like, if you get angry, like you said, if you just talking with somebody with different beliefs than you makes you angry, then there's something wrong with you, I would argue. Because your anger doesn't come from the other person. Your anger comes from you. So you have to be mindful of those things.
Yeah, agreed. You know, I think like we've been saying, journaling is very mindful to your own dreams, because that definitely helps recall and remembering. Like, it's great.
And you know, what's funny is, like, and I've been doing this more recently, is I'll go back and I'll read some of my dream journal entries from when I was a teenager, and they're just really funny. They're just really, really funny. And the thing is, it's like, I'm like, oh wow, I used to think like that. And I'm like, I'm laughing at my younger self. So it's okay to, you know, like, at a certain point, you'll probably come to the realization that, I mean, like, throughout life, there have been so many times, and I'm sure, like, everybody's experienced this, I think, where it's like, I'll be so sure of something, and then not too long afterwards, I'm like, oh, I was completely wrong. It's okay to say that you're wrong, or that, but I don't like it when people are like, this is the right thing to do. This is the correct way. Like, let's keep an open mind, guys. And that's, I mean, like, and I think that's both from the scientific point and also from the spiritual or religious standpoint. Like, it's okay to say that people don't know. Like, yeah, this is what this position says, and this is what the other one says, but it's okay to not know. That's basically my closing thoughts.
Instead of it turning into a ideological battle where, like, I'm right, you're wrong. Let's both be okay with each other, and we can both probably be right. I think that's how most people are. We're all right and wrong in some ways.
And it's okay to say that you're wrong. And that's how I'm going to leave it at. That's my closing thoughts.
All right, yeah, so I just want to say thank you, and hopefully you liked our possible ramblings. Maybe you enjoyed, maybe you didn't, but, you know, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks guys for joining us on the Let's Dream podcast. This was just kind of like just a free talk episode. We just wanted to discuss this topic. If you have any dream stories that you'd like to share with us, feel free to do so at the contact@letsdreampodcast.com, and also on any of the social media, Let's Dream Podcast, Let's Dream Pod on Twitter. And we hope to hear from you.
Yeah, we hope to hear from you, and, you know, go out and ask some of your friends about their dreams. Tell them about yours, and tell us how it went. We'd love to hear.
There you go.
Maybe they'll look at you weird. Maybe not.